Welcome to part 79 of the Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg, where we explore true crime, urban legends, mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, internet mysteries, and more. Quick reminder to click like and subscribe, and the notification bell. The disappearance of Joshua Guimond. Joshua Guimond, a 20-year-old political science student at St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota, disappeared on November 9th, 2002. On that night, Joshua attended a small party at the Metencourt dormitory on the St. John's University campus. At around 11 p.m., he left the gathering to go to the bathroom and was never seen again. Initially, his friends assumed he had walked back to his apartment at St. Maur House, but he never arrived. The next day, when Joshua missed a scheduled mock trial practice, his friends and family began to worry, and a search was initiated. The immediate response to Joshua's disappearance included extensive searches of the campus and surrounding areas, including Stumpf Lake, which was near the last known location of Joshua. Some believed that Joshua might have accidentally fallen into the lake while walking home, possibly under the influence of alcohol, but this theory has been widely disputed. Despite multiple dives and the use of sonar equipment, no trace of him was found. Scent tracking dogs led investigators to the lake, but again, nothing was uncovered. Another early theory was that Joshua had simply walked away from his life, but this was quickly dismissed by those who knew him. Joshua left behind his car, keys, and wallet, and there were no signs that he intended to leave permanently. As the investigation continued, more sinister possibilities were considered. One theory suggested that Joshua might have been struck by a vehicle and that the incident was covered up, possibly by members of the university community. However, there is no concrete evidence to support this, and it remains speculative. There were also speculations about a possible connection between Joshua's disappearance and the broader scandal at St. John's Abbey, where monks had been implicated in various scandals. Some believe that Joshua, who was reportedly disturbed by these revelations, might have been targeted for what he knew or had discovered. In 2022, on the 20th anniversary of his disappearance, investigators released new information, including a series of photos found on Joshua's computer. These photos, mostly of men, were believed to be connected to Joshua's online activities. It was revealed that Joshua had been using online chat rooms and dating services. Investigators have suggested that he may have arranged to meet someone on the night of his disappearance, which could have led to foul play. This theory, like the others, has yet to be proven, but it remains a focus of the ongoing investigation. Joshua's case drew comparisons to other disappearances of young men in the region around the same time. Christopher Jenkins and Michael Knoll, both college students, went missing and were later found dead in nearby bodies of water. While these cases were initially thought to be accidental drownings, Jenkins's death was later reclassified as intentional. This led to speculation that a serial predator might be targeting young men in the area. Some have speculated that these attacks may have been works of the unproven smiley face killer, who some speculate targets college-aged men around the United States. However, law enforcement has not confirmed any direct connection between these cases and Joshua's disappearance. Despite various theories and the release of new evidence, no definitive answers have been found. Authorities are hopeful that renewed attention might finally bring answers to this enduring mystery. Anyone with information is urged to contact the Stearns County Sheriff's Office. Spelling on the Stone song. Spelling on the Stone is a 1988 song released at a time when rumors about Elvis Presley faking his death were rampant and widely believed. This song became a central piece in the ongoing Elvis is Alive phenomenon, fueled by the belief that Elvis had not passed away, but was instead living in secret. The song was released by LS Records, a label run by Lee Stoller, who claimed to have received the recording from an anonymous source under unusual circumstances. According to Stoller, the song was delivered by a man in a limousine who gave it to his daughter, Tammy, in August 1988. The song's mysterious origins added to the aura of conspiracy that already surrounded Elvis Presley's supposed demise. One of the key points that fueled speculation was the title Spelling on the Stone, which refers to a detail on Elvis Presley's tombstone. His middle name, Aaron, was spelled incorrectly on the headstone, which led some to believe that the tombstone was deliberately incorrect, signaling that the real Elvis was still alive. However, further research indicates that while Aaron was spelled unconventionally on his birth certificate, in life he spelled it to reflect standard spelling of the biblical name Aaron. For absolute clarity, his birth certificate spelled it with only one A, while the headstone included the standard two A's. The song itself, sung by an uncredited artist with a voice eerily similar to Elvis, is narrated from the perspective of someone who faked their own death. The release of Spelling on the Stone generated significant attention, particularly on radio stations across the United States. In New York City, listeners who heard the song reportedly called the station, claiming to have seen Elvis alive. The same reaction occurred in New Orleans, where the program director noted receiving dozens of calls from listeners after the song aired. However, not everyone was convinced. Some radio stations refused to play the track, labeling it a hoax, and even Priscilla Presley, Elvis's former wife, dismissed the idea that the voice on the recording could be Elvis. Notably, Priscilla Presley went on record calling it a, quote, very cruel hoax. Despite the controversy, Spelling on the Stone made its way onto the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart, where it peaked at number 82 in early 1989. This chart success, albeit modest, cemented the song's place in the Elvis legend. Over the years, the identity of the vocalist has been a topic of much debate. Some sources attribute the performance to Dan Willis, a musician with a history of recording for LS Records, although this has never been definitively confirmed. Some believe it was a calculated move by LS Records to cash in on the Elvis is alive craze, while others think it was an elaborate prank intended to fuel conspiracy theories. The song, whether seen as a hoax or a sincere tribute, has become a lasting part of the Elvis mythos, inviting speculation and discussion to this day. The Bass Strait Triangle is an area off the southeastern coast of Australia, notorious for unexplained disappearances and mysterious occurrences, similar to the more famous Bermuda Triangle. This body of water, which separates the Australian mainland from Tasmania, has been the site of numerous incidents over the past century, leading to its reputation as a region of intrigue and speculation. The Bass Strait has a long history of maritime and aviation mishaps, starting as early as the 19th century. One of the earliest notable incidents occurred in 1920 when the SS Amelia J, a ship navigating these waters, disappeared without a trace. This disappearance was followed by the loss of 2 military aircraft sent to search for it. In 1934, the Bass Strait claimed the Miss Hobart, a commercial airliner carrying 9 passengers and 2 pilots. The aircraft vanished in perfect weather conditions, and no wreckage was ever found despite extensive search efforts. Adding to the mystery, the crew reported strange noises and an unexplained aerial machine before losing contact. Another similar incident involved the Lwell in 1935. This aircraft, en route from Melbourne to Tasmania, also disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Some wreckage was found, including seats and parts of the plane, but no conclusive explanation was ever provided. These early 20th century events set the stage for the area's eerie reputation. Perhaps the most famous case associated with the Bass Strait Triangle is the disappearance of Frederick Valenti in 1978. Valenti was a 20-year-old pilot on a training flight over the Bass Strait when he reported to air traffic control that he was being followed by an unidentified flying object. Describing the object as metallic and emitting a green light, Valentich's last transmission was cut off by a strange noise, after which he and his plane were never seen again. This incident sparked widespread theories, including alien abduction, due to the bizarre details and the absence of any wreckage. Several theories have been proposed to explain the disappearances in the Bass Strait Triangle. Some attribute the incidents to the dangerous and unpredictable weather patterns in the region, which is known for sudden storms and rough seas. The strong winds and unpredictable conditions can quickly turn treacherous, especially for small aircraft and ships. However, the more mysterious explanations involve potential extraterrestrial activity. There have been reports of unusual lights in the sky over the Bass Strait, which some link to UFOs or other unexplained phenomena. While many of the incidents can be explained by natural factors like treacherous weather or human error, the more mysterious aspects continue to be speculated. As with the Bermuda Triangle, skeptics point out that any heavily trafficked area of the ocean is likely to have what some people may view as an uncanny amount of unusual activity. Also, stay tuned because I'll be covering the disappearance of Frank Valenti further later in this video. The death of Eugene Izzy. Eugene Izzy, a crime novelist from Chicago, led a life and career that reflected the gritty realities of the city he loved. Born on March 23, 1953, Izzy spent much of his life in the working-class neighborhoods of Chicago, using his experiences to fuel his writing. He began his writing career in the late 1980s, and his novels often depicted the tough streets and organized crime of Chicago. Izzy wrote under his name and the pseudonym Nick Gaetano, producing several novels that, while never achieving blockbuster success, earned him a loyal readership. On December 7, 1996, a scene straight out of one of Izzy's novels played out in downtown Chicago. A passerby on Michigan Avenue looked up and noticed a figure hanging from the 14th floor window of an office building. The figure was later identified as Eugene Izzy. The discovery set off a whirlwind of speculation and mystery that remains unresolved. When authorities entered Izzy's office, they were met with a perplexing scene. Izzy, who weighed around 220 pounds, was found hanging by a rope tied to a steel desk inside the locked office. He was wearing a bulletproof vest, and his pockets contained brass knuckles, a can of bear spray, and almost $500 in cash. Additionally, there was an 800-page manuscript on his computer detailing a plot eerily similar to the circumstances of his own end. The manuscript reportedly involved a Chicago-based author who meets a violent end at the hands of Indiana militiamen. This led to speculation that Izzy may have been researching or infiltrating such a group, and that his end might have been an orchestrated act to resemble his manuscript's plot. Some suggested that Izzy, known for his thorough research and willingness to immerse himself in dangerous environments, might have attracted the wrong kind of attention. Despite these suspicions, the official conclusion from the Cook County Coroner's Office was that Izzy ended himself. However, the theatrical nature of his end, combined with the specific details from his unfinished manuscript, left lingering questions. Many of Izzy's friends and colleagues found it hard to believe that he would have chosen such a public and dramatic manner of exiting life, especially given his known disdain for attention. Some have suggested that Izzy might have been acting out a scene from his novel to better understand the emotions and physicality involved, only for things to go tragically wrong. Over the years, various theories have circulated, including the possibility that Izzy's end was staged by someone else, or that it was an elaborate performance gone awry. Yet none of these theories have been substantiated with concrete evidence, leaving the mystery of Eugene Izzy's final moments unsolved and open to interpretation. In August 2021, Angelia Lynn Johnston, also known as Angelie, held a press conference at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Angelie, a self-proclaimed retired Defense Intelligence officer, claimed that she had encountered extraterrestrial beings in a hidden base within the Mojave Desert on January 21, 2018. According to her, she was introduced to two men, one of whom, identified only as Wayne, led her to a hidden tunnel in the desert. Inside this tunnel, Angelie claimed to have encountered two different extraterrestrial beings who communicated with her telepathically. These beings, she said, resided in a hidden base within the mountain, a claim that has sparked much controversy. During the press conference, she announced plans to lead a team of scientists, including an astronaut, to the location of the alleged encounter. The goal was to bring back concrete evidence of extraterrestrial life. However, this expedition never materialized, leading to increased skepticism about her story. The story took another twist when Wayne and his partner, Tricia, publicly disputed Angelie's account. They stated that while they had met Angelie and discussed UFOs, there was no tunnel, no extraterrestrial encounter, and no missing time as she described. They also mentioned that Angelie had consumed an extremely potent cannabis oil during the visit, which they suggested might have influenced her perceptions. Despite these contradictions, Angelie has remained steadfast in her belief that she encountered extraterrestrial beings. Adding to the complexity, Angelie has also claimed that the Earth will undergo a significant transformation by 2027, a prediction that added a prophetic dimension to her narrative. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy taking a few seconds to promote my work. Remember to like and subscribe and also share this video with your friends and family. The Lost Gospels. The term Lost Gospels refers to a collection of early Christian writings that were not included in the canonical New Testament. These texts were written between the 2nd and 4th centuries AD, a period when early Christianity was still defining its doctrines. These texts were discovered in various locations, with significant finds such as the Nag Hammadi Library in Egypt in 1945, which included the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Judas. These Gospels were often buried or hidden by Christian communities who viewed them as heretical or feared persecution. The Lost Gospels differ significantly from the canonical Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. For instance, the Gospel of Thomas is a collection of sayings attributed to Jesus, many of which emphasize self-knowledge and inner enlightenment. This gospel reflects Gnostic influences, a belief system that emphasizes esoteric knowledge as the path to salvation. The Gospel of Mary presents Mary Magdalene as a prominent disciple who receives secret teachings from Jesus, challenging the traditional gender roles within early Christianity. This gospel has fueled discussions about the role of women in the early church and their potential leadership positions. The Gospel of Judas offers a radically different portrayal of Judas Iscariot, not as a betrayer, but as a close confidant of Jesus who acted on Jesus' instructions. This text challenges the conventional narrative of Judas's role in Christian theology and offers a more nuanced view of his actions. The Lost Gospels have been the subject of intense scholarly debate. Some scholars argue that these texts were excluded from the New Testament because they did not align with the emerging orthodoxy of the early church. Others suggest that the Lost Gospels were simply less popular or not widely circulated, leading to their exclusion. Some scholars argue that the texts that were included in the canon were those that supported the growing institutional structure of the church and its teachings. The discovery of the lost Gospels has had a profound impact on our understanding of early Christianity. These texts reveal the diversity of beliefs and practices among early Christians and offer alternative perspectives on familiar biblical figures and events. The Hittite Plague, an epidemic that struck the Hittite Empire in the mid-14th century BC, remains one of the most mysterious and impactful events in ancient history. The Hittite Empire was a formidable force in the ancient Near East, stretching across modern-day Turkey, northern Syria, and beyond. During its peak, the empire was engaged in constant warfare and diplomacy with other major powers such as Egypt and the Assyrians. However, the empire was struck by a plague that would last over 2 decades. The exact origin of the plague is still debated among historians. Some theories suggest that it was introduced into the empire through military campaigns, particularly after the Hittites captured Egyptian prisoners of war. Others propose that the plague may have spread through the extensive trade routes that the Hittites controlled. These routes connected them to various parts of the Near East, including regions where numerous different infectious diseases were prevalent. The disease, believed to be tularemia, also known as rabbit fever, is caused by the bacterium Francisella tularensis. This disease could have spread through contact with infected animals, particularly rodents, or through insect bites. This disease is characterized by symptoms such as fever, chills, muscle pain, and respiratory complications, which align with the descriptions found in Hittite texts. The plague was not just a health crisis, but also a social and political one. It caused significant labor shortages, as reflected in the desperate correspondence between the Hittite rulers and their neighbors. The famous Amarna letters, for instance, include pleas from the Hittite king to the Egyptian pharaoh, describing how the plague had decimated the male population. This letter specifically describes how the plague left the empire without essential workers. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Hittite plague is the suggestion that it could represent one of the earliest instances of biological warfare. Some historians hypothesize that the Hittites, realizing the destructive potential of the disease, may have intentionally spread it to their enemies. There are records suggesting that diseased rams were sent to enemy territories, potentially spreading the disease among their foes. This theory, while speculative, highlights the desperate measures the Hittites may have taken as they struggled to maintain their dominance in the region. The long-term impact of the plague on the Hittite Empire was profound. The epidemic exacerbated existing internal conflicts and succession crises, leading to periods of instability that weakened the central authority. The weakened state struggled to fend off external threats, and over time, this contributed to the empire's decline. By the 12th century BC, the once mighty Hittite Empire had disintegrated, with its territories gradually absorbed by the emerging powers in the region. The death of Joseph Bone Lwell. Joseph Bone Lwell was a prominent figure in early 20th century New York, known for his mastery of the card game bridge. Born on February 24, 1873, in Cranford, New Jersey, Lwell grew up in a comfortable family setting. As a young man, he pursued a career in sales, but eventually found his true passion in the world of bridge, a card game that was rapidly gaining popularity among the elite. Lwell's skill at the game earned him recognition as one of the foremost experts in the United States. He authored several books on bridge, including Lwell on Bridge and Advanced Bridge, which were widely regarded as definitive guides and became a sought-after figure in New York's high society. Despite his professional success, Lwell's personal life was tumultuous. He had a reputation as a womanizer, which led to a strained marriage that ended in separation. On the morning of June 11, 1920, Lwell was found severely wounded in his Manhattan home. Lwell was last seen alive by a milkman around 6:30 a.m. when he collected his mail and newspaper. By 9 a.m., his housekeeper, Marie Larson, discovered him slumped in a chair in his living room, still in his pajamas, with a gunshot wound to his forehead. His toupee and dentures were missing, adding an odd touch to the scene. Despite the severity of his injury, Lwell was initially still alive but succumbed to his wounds shortly thereafter, without regaining consciousness. The case was immediately sensationalized by the press, partly due to the bizarre circumstances surrounding it. The room where Lwell was found was locked from the inside, and there were no signs of forced entry. The police discovered a .45 caliber bullet on the floor, but the weapon itself was never found. Additionally, a cigar of a brand different from Lwell's usual choice was found in the room, suggesting he might have had a visitor shortly before the incident. Despite extensive investigations, the case went cold. The police interviewed hundreds of people, including Lwell's numerous romantic entanglements and business associates, but no definitive leads emerged. Theories ranged from a botched robbery to a crime of passion. But the lack of concrete evidence meant that speculation ran wild. Some suggested that Lwell's killer might have been someone close to him, perhaps even someone he knew well enough to let into his home early in the morning. The mystery deepened with time as various confessions and claims surfaced, only to be debunked later. One man confessed to the crime a year later, but his confession was dismissed as the ramblings of a mentally unstable individual. The 1836 Bank of England Vault Incident. In 1836, the Bank of England, one of the world's most secure financial institutions that housed a significant portion of the nation's wealth, was the site of a bizarre incident. The story begins with a series of anonymous letters sent to the directors of the Bank of England. The mysterious author claimed to have access to the bank's gold vaults. Initially, the bank's directors dismissed these letters as a prank. However, the persistent writer finally managed to pique their curiosity by offering to meet them at a time of their choosing, inside the vault itself. When the directors gathered at the appointed time and place, they were shocked to hear a noise emanating from beneath the vault's floorboards. To their amazement, a man emerged from the floor. This man was a sewer worker who, while conducting routine maintenance, had stumbled upon an old drain that led directly beneath the bank's gold vault. The man's route into the vault was an unintentional discovery. He had found the drain while navigating the sewer system below the city. His revelation highlighted a significant and previously unnoticed vulnerability in what was considered an impregnable stronghold. The directors were initially horrified at the potential disaster that could have occurred, but upon realizing that the worker had not taken any gold, they were relieved. To reward his honesty, the Bank of England gave the sewer worker a sum of £800, an extremely substantial amount at the time. This gesture was both a reward and an attempt to ensure the man's silence about the incident, which could have severely tarnished the bank's reputation. Despite the incident's dramatic nature, the name of this honest sewer worker has not been preserved in historical records, adding an element of mystery to the tale. There is also some debate among historians about the exact details of the event and whether all elements of the story are factual or have been embellished over time. Nonetheless, the Bank of England itself acknowledges the story, though it is shrouded in some historical ambiguity. This incident also led to increased scrutiny and improvements in the security of the bank's vaults. In the following years, the bank took steps to ensure that no such breach could occur again, including detailed investigations and upgrades to the sewer systems surrounding the bank. The Death of Sophocles. Sophocles was one of ancient Greece's most celebrated playwrights, and one of the leading figures of his era overall. Born around 496 BC in Colonus, a suburb of Athens, Sophocles lived through a century that saw significant cultural, political, and military developments in Greece. He was known for his extensive body of work, writing over 120 plays, although only 7 have survived in complete form, including the renowned Oedipus Rex and Antigone. Sophocles' life was marked by his success in the dramatic competitions of Athens. He won at least 20 victories in these contests, a testament to his unmatched talent in crafting tragic narratives that resonated deeply with the Athenian audience. His contributions to drama, such as the introduction of a third actor and the reduction of the chorus's role in the plot, revolutionized the theatrical experience. As for the final chapter of Sophocles' life, it's a mix of both historical accounts and speculative tales. He reportedly lived into his 90s, passing away around 406 BC. Despite his advanced age, he was still actively involved in Athenian society and theater. Interestingly, there are several theories and stories about his last moments that continue to intrigue scholars and enthusiasts alike. One popular story suggests that Sophocles died while reciting lines from his play Antigone, overwhelmed by the emotions of his own words. This tale is likely fictitious, given the lack of reliable sources to confirm it. Another account, recorded by ancient historians, implies that his passing might have occurred shortly after leading a chorus in mourning for his rival fellow playwright Euripides. This event underscores the close relationships between the great playwrights of the time. Additionally, ancient sources like Plutarch mention an unusual tale where Sophocles supposedly choked on a grape. There is also a more practical explanation that his end came naturally due to old age. This aligns with the historical context of the time, where individuals in their 90s were extremely rare, and living to such an age was an achievement in itself. These narratives, while differing in detail, collectively emphasize the deep respect and admiration that Sophocles commanded during and after his life. The Stanley Hotel. The Stanley Hotel, located in Estes Park, Colorado, is a historic landmark known for its grandeur, as well as its eerie reputation. Opened in 1909, the hotel was the brainchild of Freeland Oscar Stanley, the co-inventor of the Stanley steamer automobile. It was originally designed as a luxury resort for wealthy Easterners and a health retreat for those suffering from tuberculosis. The hotel offered state-of-the-art amenities, including electricity, telephones, and modern bathrooms in every room, a rarity at the time. The hotel's connection to the supernatural is deeply intertwined with its history. One of the most famous stories involves room 217. In 1911, a gas leak caused an explosion in this room, throwing chambermaid Elizabeth Wilson into the air. Miraculously, she survived and continued working at the hotel until her retirement. Today, guests who stay in room 217 report odd occurrences, such as their belongings being mysteriously rearranged, and some claim to have seen Wilson's ghost. The hotel's most famous brush with horror came in 1974, when author Stephen King stayed there with his wife Tabitha. The hotel was nearly deserted as it was closing for the season, and the eerie atmosphere left a profound impact on King. That night, he had a vivid nightmare about his son being chased by a possessed fire hose down the long, empty corridors of the hotel. This dream inspired his novel, The Shining, which turned the Stanley Hotel into a cultural icon. The Stanley Hotel's haunted reputation is supported by other reports of paranormal activity. The fourth floor, which used to house female employees and children, is often cited as a hotspot for ghostly encounters. Guests have reported hearing phantom footsteps and children's laughter echoing through the halls, despite the floor being empty. Additionally, the hotel's concert hall is rumored to be haunted by the ghost of Flora Stanley Freeland Stanley's wife, who was known to play the piano in life, and some say she still does. Aside from its spooky tales, the hotel has played a significant role in local history. It survived periods of decline, particularly in the 1970s, when it was nearly demolished. The resurgence of interest following Stephen King's visit and the subsequent publication of The Shining helped restore the hotel to its former glory. Nigel the Parrot. Nigel, the African gray parrot, originally lived in Torrance, California, with his owner, Darren Chick, a British expatriate. Known for mimicking Darren's British accent, Nigel was an integral part of Darren's life. However, in 2010, Nigel went missing, leaving Darren heartbroken and concerned for the well-being of his beloved pet. For 4 years, Nigel's whereabouts remained unknown. Then, in 2014, he reappeared under mysterious circumstances. Nigel was found by Julissa Sperling, a dog groomer, who noticed the parrot whistling and chattering outside her door. However, something was different. Nigel was now speaking Spanish. Words and phrases like "¿Qué pasó?", meaning "what happened?", and references to someone named Larry were part of his new vocabulary. The journey to reunite Nigel with Darren began when Julissa, recognizing that this was someone's pet, searched online for missing parrots. Eventually, she connected with Teresa Miko, a veterinarian who was searching for her own lost parrot. Although Teresa's bird was not Nigel, she helped trace Nigel's origins back to Darren through his microchip records. The reunion was emotional, albeit Nigel initially bit Darren, perhaps as a reaction to the confusion and stress of being in an unfamiliar environment again. This story leaves many questions unanswered. Where was Nigel for those 4 years? How did he pick up Spanish, and who was Larry? Some suggest Nigel was cared for by a Spanish-speaking household during his time away, which would explain his new linguistic skills. However, the identity of Larry remains a puzzle, with no concrete leads on who this person might be or what role they played in Nigel's life during his absence. African gray parrots like Nigel are known for their exceptional intelligence, often compared to that of a young child. These brainy birdos are capable of learning over 1,000 words and using them in context, which adds a layer of intrigue to Nigel's story. Their ability to mimic human speech so precisely is a well-documented phenomenon, but Nigel's case is unique in that he completely switched languages during his time away. Despite the unanswered questions, Nigel's safe return to his original owner is a heartwarming conclusion to what could have been a tragic tale. The Disappearance of Frederick Valenti. The disappearance of Frederick Valenti on October 21, 1978, is a case which has intrigued both aviation experts and UFO enthusiasts alike for decades. Valenti, a 20-year-old Australian pilot, was flying a Cessna over the Bass Strait, a notoriously treacherous stretch of water between the Australian mainland and Tasmania. His last radio transmission, coupled with reports of strange lights in the sky, have fueled decades of speculation. Valenti took off from Moorabbin Airport near Melbourne for what was intended to be a 125-mile training flight to King Island. The weather was clear, and Valenti, though young, had logged around 150 hours of flying experience. At approximately 7 p.m., Valenti contacted the Melbourne Flight Service to report an unidentified aircraft following him at 4,500 feet. According to Valenti, this aircraft was large, had 4 bright landing lights, and was moving at a speed that seemed unusual for any known aircraft. The flight service, however, reported no other aircraft in the vicinity. Over the next several minutes, Valenti described increasingly erratic behavior from the unknown object, stating at one point that it was orbiting above him. He described that it was shiny and metallic, with a green light unlike any plane he knew of. At 7:12 p.m., Valenti reported engine trouble, and when asked to describe the other aircraft again, his chilling response was, and I quote, "It isn't an aircraft." This was followed by a strange metallic scraping sound before communication was lost permanently. The subsequent search efforts were extensive but ultimately fruitless. No wreckage of Valentich's aircraft was found, and the Australian Department of Transport could not determine a cause for the disappearance. 5 years later, a piece of what was possibly his aircraft, a cowl flap, was found washed ashore on Flinders Island, but it provided no concrete answers. Valentich's disappearance quickly became a focal point for UFO speculation. His father, Guido Valentich, revealed after the incident that Frederick was a fervent believer in UFOs and often expressed fears of being attacked by one. This, combined with the peculiar circumstances of his final transmission, led many to conclude that his disappearance was the result of an extraterrestrial encounter. Witnesses in the area that night reported seeing strange lights and objects in the sky, further fueling these theories. One witness took a photograph near Cape Otway on the Bass Strait, which allegedly showed a fast-moving object exiting the water. I have attached this photograph here, and you may want to take a moment to look at the picture on your left. Personally, from this photograph, I'm unable to tell anything about the object, but let me know what you think in the comments. However, not all explanations point to extraterrestrial activity. Some experts suggest that Valentich may have become disoriented, leading to what is known as a graveyard spiral. This is a type of uncontrolled descending turn that can occur when a pilot becomes confused about their orientation. The green lights he reported could have been reflections or celestial bodies like planets, which can appear unusually bright under certain conditions. Additionally, the strange sounds heard at the end of his transmission might have been mechanical noises from the aircraft as it entered this fatal spiral. Despite these alternative explanations, the case of Frederick Valentich remains unresolved. No conclusive evidence has emerged to explain his disappearance, and the mystery continues to captivate. The death of Maryweather Lewis. Maryweather Lewis, famed for co-leading the Lewis and Clark expedition, met an untimely end on October 10, 1809, at Grinder's Stand, a remote inn along the Natchez Trace in Tennessee. At the time of his demise, Lewis was on a journey from St. Louis to Washington, D.C., where he intended to address financial issues related to his role as the governor of the Louisiana Territory. The Natchez Trace, known as the Devil's Backbone, was a perilous route infamous for its bandits and rough conditions. On the night in question, Lewis reportedly behaved erratically, asking for alcohol but consuming little and pacing nervously. Later, sounds of gunshots were heard, followed by Lewis's voice calling out for water. The innkeeper, Mrs. Grinder, claimed she was too frightened to assist and found him severely injured the next morning. The official explanation given by those close to Lewis, including Thomas Jefferson and William Clark, was that he had chosen to end himself. They cited his well-documented bouts of depression and earlier attempts at this act. Jefferson himself mentioned Lewis's sensible depressions of mind, and noted that Lewis had arranged his affairs in a way that suggested he anticipated his own passing. However, this explanation has been challenged over the years. Some believe that Lewis might have been a victim of foul play, with theories ranging from a robbery gone wrong to more elaborate plots involving political adversaries. One of the most notable figures implicated in these theories is General Wilkinson, the former governor of the Louisiana Territory, who was later revealed to be an agent working for Spain. Wilkinson's involvement in numerous conspiracies, including a notorious plot with Aaron Burr, has led some to speculate that he might have orchestrated Lewis's demise. Further fueling the debate, when Lewis's grave was inspected in 1847, the commission responsible for erecting his monument suggested that his end was more likely due to a, quote, assassin. However, they provided little evidence to support this claim. The controversy persists in part because of the conflicting accounts from the night at Grinder's stand and the fact that no thorough investigation was conducted at the time. The circumstances of Lewis's final hours have been the subject of renewed interest, with descendants and historians alike calling for his remains to be exhumed to allow for modern forensic analysis. Despite advances in technology that could potentially shed light on the mystery, the National Park Service has denied these requests, citing concerns over the integrity of the gravesite. The lost city of Helike, often referred to as the real-life Atlantis, was an ancient Greek city located on the northern coast of the Peloponnesus, near the Gulf of Corinth. It was a prominent city-state and a leading member of the Achaean League, a confederation of 12 cities, and worshipped Poseidon as its chief deity. The city's prosperity and religious significance made it a central hub for trade and culture in ancient Greece. Helike's sudden destruction occurred in the winter of 373 BC. Ancient accounts, though written years after the event, describe a catastrophic earthquake followed by a massive tsunami that submerged the city. The earthquake caused the ground to sink, and as the waters of the Corinthian Gulf surged over the city, it disappeared beneath the waves, leaving no trace. For centuries, Helike's ruins were said to be visible underwater, with even sailors reporting glimpses of a submerged statue of Poseidon. The mystery of Helike primarily revolves around its sudden disappearance. The city's disappearance sparked numerous legends and theories, with some ancient writers suggesting that Helike's destruction was a divine punishment from Poseidon. This association with the sea god, along with the city's sudden submersion, led many to speculate that Helike could have inspired the legend of Atlantis, as described by Plato. While this connection remains a theory, it underscores the lasting impact of Helike's fate on Greek mythology and historical lore. For centuries, the exact location of Helike remained a mystery. Many believed it had sunk into the depths of the Gulf of Corinth, and attempts to locate the ruins focused on underwater archaeology. It wasn't until the late 20th century that a breakthrough occurred. In 2001, archaeologist Dora Katsanopoulou and her team made a significant discovery inland, near the modern village of Rizomylos. They found remnants of buildings and artifacts from the classical period, buried under a layer of silt that suggested the area had once been a lagoon, not an underwater city. The findings revealed that the city had not sunk into the sea, but could have been submerged by a combination of the earthquake and the subsequent formation of a lagoon. Over time, the lagoon silted up, and the city was buried under layers of sediment, preserving it for millennia until modern archaeology could uncover its secrets. Today, the site of Helike continues to be an area of active archaeological research. Excavations have uncovered various artifacts and structures, providing insights into the daily life, culture, and ultimate demise of this once thriving city. If you like this video, please do me a huge favor and click the share button and send it to anyone who you think may enjoy it. Remember to like and subscribe and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership to support the channel further. Also, get my lazy chill lo-fi beats on Spotify, YouTube Music, or Apple Music, and remember to follow and subscribe on these platforms. Also check out my new Instagram account where I post reels related to the channel, as well as to my music. I've included the links to everything in the description of this video. Shout out to my patrons Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z-Volts, Zach Steele, Franz Tech, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spookiest Becky, Vespertine, Metanova, Will Roan, Crab Nebula, and Blasphemous.